presidential hopeful Bongbong Marcos said he knows nothing about the so-called Taliano gold.
Balitang-balita, hindi lamang sa Pilipinas, kundi sa lahat, meron talagang Yamashita Gold. Pero sa buong buhay ko, hindi pa ako nakakita ng gold na ganyan.
Presidential bet Leody de Guzman, meanwhile, wants renewed discussions on the atrocities committed under Marcos's rule.
Marami pang dapat gawin at hindi ko nga alam kung bakit parang napalagpas ang maraming bagay sa pamilya Marcos. Tingin ko dapat ay repasuhin ulit yung mga usapin tungkol sa pamilya Marcos, tungkol sa pera, sa mga human rights violation.
The presidential candidates have started laying down their plans for the country's biggest problems. But apart from the politics that often center on personalities, what will influence the Filipino voters' decisions in the 2022 elections? We will discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to this edition of The Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. Kasama po natin online Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5 and here with us in Mandaluyong in our studios, Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, good evening.
Happy Tuesday.
Hello, good evening.
Anong mga minamatsaga natin sa mga headlines, Ed?
Baba ngayon, 17,000 new cases.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice the positivity rate. How is it, the positivity rate?
Hindi ko rin napansin. But I just remember, di ba, DOH was saying nag-peak na tayo
Nag-peak
sa
na.
NCR.
Tsaka nag-agree na sila kahit ng OCTA, di ba? Kumbaga, they're both now agreeing that the cases have peaked and that yes, they're seeing a definite downtrend, at least in the NCR.
So mukhang totohanan yung Valentine's Day na close contact projections ni Guido, David.
Talagang parang may
So,
binabantayan
pwede ka
ka o
na,
may
Ed.
kinakatakutan ka.
Pwede na si Ed.
Pero another piece of good news. ay, at
Pero
least-
yung home,
home
yung
test.
DIY, home test kit. Ed,
May dalawa nang
pasok
na-approve.
pa yung brand mo.
Huwag ka naman maingay.
pwede nang pang Valentine's gift yung home test kit.
May dalawang na-approve na so far. At least I read
Abbott,
sa inquiry
diba?
kanina. One was Abbott, the other one is, I forget the name of the other one eh. Basta at least dalawa na na-approve and you have more pending. Doon sa more pending ako nakapila.
Pero siyempre, inuubos lang natin yung COVID news because I know a lot of us want to talk about politics over the past couple of days. Marami tayong materialis na pag-uusapan and people are starting to really get into everything that we will be talking about until May, in the May elections. Let's begin tonight with Professor Jean Encinas Franco and Professor Dennis Coronacion of the UP and UST Departments of Political Science. Good evening, professors. Welcome back.
Good evening, sir and
Evening,
ma'am.
Profs.
Evening po. Hi. Good evening to everyone.
Professor Jean, let me start with you. I mean, over the weekend, of course, nagkataon din that we had the presidential interviews with Jessica Soho on GMA and then si Bongbong Marcos na nakausap din ng ating kapatid si Jovi Francisco tsaka si Maricel Halili ng News 5. Let me just throw a broad question out there. Sa lahat po ng mga narinig natin sa mga kandidato in these past couple of days, are there any potential game changers, or maybe if game changer is too ambitious, are there any things that you think will stick in the minds of people moving forward?
Para sa akin tingin ko nagkaroon ng naging maganda yung nagkaroon ngayon ng clamor na magkaroon ng mga debate, nagkaroon ng mga interviews, parang sa akin that's a very good sign that people want to take the presidential candidates to task, no? Suriin talaga ng mabuti. I have never seen that in previous elections.
Okay. Well, but Professor Coronacion, let me ask naman diretso with regards to Bongbong Marcos. As we all know, Senator Marcos refused to join that interview with Jessica Soho. And apart from that decision, Ang justification niya pa, sabi niya, ayaw kong harapin yan because biased journalist yan.
Anti-Marcos.
Oo. What did you think? And he doubled down on that with the interview with Joey Francisco and Marcela Lili. Sabi niya, ayoko nang ma-interview ako ng bias. Tinanong siya ni Marcela Lili, ano ibig sabihin ng bias? Ang sabi niya, basta anti-Marcos. Ang tanong ko lang po is Bongbong Marcos taking a risk here by one, not attending, and then two, attacking media?
Well, definitely, tama kayo dyan. He took a risk by not attending the presidential interviews, and then at the same time by providing a not so good reason for his non-participation. Well, probably he initially thought that the interviews would have no adverse impact on his campaign, since alam naman natin na among the presidential candidates, he enjoys a wide margin over the others. So, and
Is he right? I wonder if he's right.
Well, it appears na based on the reaction of the people, hindi mukhang mali ang kanyang decision. And he's been going around, nag-guest siya, and he's been doing this troubleshooting.
Pero Prof, he's guessing, but he's guessing with chosen outlets. I mean, he's not guessing with everybody or with the what he perceives to be biased media. He's guessing with this with the programs which he found more I don't know if friendly is the right word since last year pa. I mean, we noticed that we've invited him several times. He has never agreed to an interview with us.
Well, for me,
okay, sige ma'am.
sa akin, I don't think...
Bias ka raw kasi, Ed.
Sabi.
Well, it's going to be a missed opportunity on his part, primarily because you cannot just choose the friendly media, to which you're going to grant an interview. Because if you become president, you're going to have a lot of decisions. Some of them might be unpopular. And you will be asked a lot of questions, a lot of difficult questions, and you should always be ready to respond to them. And as president, you have to accommodate the media because they are a significant ally, in our democracy. So tingin ko mali talaga yung ginawa niya. Mali rin na namimili siya ng entity or ng personality na mag-i-interview.
But Prof, sundita ko lang yan kasi he also have President Duterte's example. In 2016, he declared ayaw niya yung media, and he declared na boycottin niya yung media for several weeks. And I know he has since medyo come back to the table, pero basically ganun pa rin. He does not talk to the media. He just prefers to talk to the people.
But Ed, can I respond to that? No? He did that when he was already the president. Okay? And wala tayong magawa doon. But this is a campaign. And I would have to say, of course, that when you're already ahead, you're already winning, diba? You're not going to put that at risk in any way by allowing yourself to face someone whom you think is against you and who could throw shade. Not just shade, but really, bring you to the grinders. I mean, I'm just saying, diba? So isn't that apart from the fact that, of course, if you really had good intentions, you would tell people and you would unite them into your cause. That's fine. But this is a contest. And we all know that strategy is at the bottom of it so that you can precisely get the position you want, right? So I just political, in terms of the politics of it, was that really a bad move?
Well, it turned out to be a bad move. Siguro initially he thought that he might as well not join the presidential interviews for the purpose of preserving his lead. And as it turned out, mali pala, it was a miscalculated move on his part.
So you think it will backfire? That's my point, no? Because right now he's leading, let's just say, by leaps and bounds actually. So parang do you think that mamimenosan siya by what he did?
Well, I don't really think so. Kasi yung ano, it's for the same purpose. It's for exactly the same purpose kung bakit ayaw niyo ma-attend sa mga ganyang klaseng mga interviews which ang alam niya ay magiging hostile sa kanya yung host. So, well, I don't think that it's going to have any it's going to cause a big dent on
But,
his campaign.
yeah,
Oo.
but Prof and Professor Jean, whether or not there is a dent, whether that dent is big or small, I think that's one of the things we're all eager to see in the next surveys, di ba? Kung may impact to. But let's assume there is, and let's assume it's not necessarily a big dent, but let's assume that there are people who mind you not showing up to these forums. How long can he sustain that strategy of avoiding mainstream media and avoiding the big forums, if not the official forums of the COMELEC?
Yeah, I don't think he can sustain it. But but I am hopeful that he will attend the presidential debates at the very least, kasi he knows that he will be criticized, no, by a lot of people, and he may lose supporters. So sa akin, for me, mas maganda ngayon na nagsasalita siya. Sa akin kasi the more na magsalita siya, the more na mas maganda.
Professor Coronacion, trending yung hashtag Marcos Duwag. Do you think that is something that the campaign is tracking, is mindful of? Basically, do you think that the campaign will be tracking precisely that question on whether or not that attack on him will stick?
Yes, of course. The the campaign team of BBM is definitely going to monitor messages such as this na in-encapsulate yung kanyang attempts not to engage the media as well as the other the possibility that he might also avoid engaging the other presidential candidates. So in the long run, I think he should be able to overcome whatever is this kind of attitude, this kind of fear na baka mamaya ma-expose pa yung weakness niya o kaya makita that he's not really able to answer some of the questions, especially those that pertain to his family's hidden wealth or ill-gotten wealth rather, and yung abuses during the martial law.
But Prof, I'm just conscious.
To be fair to him, he's not the first candidate to employ this less talk, less mistake.
Yeah.
I recall that FPJ, never really granted a one-on-one interview to us, no? And well, of course he lost. At least we don't know, but that was a highly disputed election.
Yeah, with a very small, very small margin.
Ibang episode pa yan.
That's for another episode. But I guess my question is, intrinsically, really, number one, there seems to be some wisdom to the less talk, less mistake strategy, right? And secondly, it has been shown to actually work, especially if the candidate is really not all that articulate, let's just say. And we have to admit that there are many candidates who are not articulate.
Yeah, pero I see the difference now eh. Kasi before, parang walang shame yung pag hindi mo pag-attend, halimbawa sa mga debates. Pero now meron na. But to the extent on whether ganon din ang sentiment ng Class E, for instance, D and E, hindi natin alam, no? And the difference now also is the fact that among the presidential candidates, yung pinaka iniisip na pinaka hindi articulate is si Manny Pacquiao. But the thing is, Manny Pacquiao is attending. So parang medyo,
speaking of which, Professor Jean, I did want to transition there also. Okay, we've talked about Ferdinand Marcos Jr., Obviously, he took a risk. We'll see whether or not he paid the price. But let's talk about the other candidates. Diba? Marcos may have paid a price, but of the other candidates who were there, did anybody win?
Yes. Oo. Yes.
So, sino? Who do you think came out on top of those interviews?
For me, si Ping and Len.
And Professor Coronacion?
Well, my take on that is that I don't think that there is a clear winner in that presidential interviews. If ever there is any benefit that the candidates may have gotten from it, I think they were able to highlight kung ano yung mga qualities nila, mga strong qualities. Say for example, in the case of VP Leni Robredo, she was able to show na she's really very serious and she's very much prepared. Meron siya mga plataforma na nakahanda, mga konkretong solusyon. Si Senator Manny Pacquiao, if ever kung may pinakita siya doon, yun yung kanyang katapangan at sinseridad. Tapos si Senator Ping naman, pinakita niya yung kanyang extensive experience sa government. And kung ang kanyang mga sagot ay nakabase parati sa kanyang karanasan. So ilan lamang po ito sa mga halimbawa na napakita ng mga presidential candidates.
Professor Jean, why nabanggit na si Vice President Leni, why Senator Lacson? And let's throw in also your impressions of Isko Moreno.
Si Ping kasi detalyado yung niya, no? Detalyado yung kanyang mga nalatag na mga programa. Tapos yun na yung sabi ni Prof. Dennis, no, yung extensive experience niya, hindi mo talaga matatawaran, no, sa executive and legislative branches of government. So alam niya yung proseso. And that's something that's admirable in his in his candidacy as president. Pero si hindi ko napili si si Isko because how do you call it? Parang maikli yung sagot niya tapos para siyang batang bibo. Alam mo yun? Sorry for the word.
Hindi po ba batang bibo nakakatuwa panoorin?
Hindi. But you don't want that for a presidential candidate, di ba? Yung parang gusto niya yung para siyang, may party, tapos tinatanong mo yung mga bata doon. Tapos parang siya, parang gusto niya yung mauuna siyang magsasalita. O ito yung sasabihin ko, but really walang detail. Parang gusto niya lahat puro soundbite. So yun yung kulang eh.
Prof, yung part about Ping Lacson, marami kasing naungkat about Ping Lacson from his stint with MISG, yung the Sir Corbito Slay case, yung pagtatago ni Ping Lacson abroad, and yung Korotong Baleleng. I'm wondering lang if any of these issues that were brought up on Saturday, if they could possibly have an impact on the negative side on Ping Lacson. Or the fact that he faced them, could that be on the positive side?
Yeah. Well, hindi pa rin ako satisfied dun sa sagot. But I don't know for people who were not there when it happened. Kasi medyo matagal na rin, di ba?
Yeah.
So that's yun yung upside kay Senator Lacson. Pero yung downside is that medyo kulang yung explanation niya, no? So yun yung kailangan niyang tutukan kung gusto niyang magka-pogi points at manalo, di ba?
Yeah, well, I raised that question kasi precisely
si
Bongbong Marcos kasi had also used that argument na the interviewees should stop referring to 30 years ago, 35-year-old issues and focus on my plans for the future instead of what happened in the past.
Diba? But that should not, hindi maganda yon kahit sinong kandidato, hindi dapat. Kasi talaga, kung mandidato ka talagang lahat ibubulgar sa'yo, no? That's par for the course. So, hindi pwedeng, sabi ko nga, the road to the presidency should not be a walk in the park. So, bakit ka magrereklamo kung inuungkat, no? Yung talagang kasama yan. So, hindi dapat iwasan yan, ano? Kung wala ka namang itinatago or kaya mo namang sagutin, di sagutin mo. Kasi kung itatago mo, that's not fair, no? And that's also that's also the
Gap lang
thing
or
that
babalik?
yung I mean, unlike in countries where they have well-developed political parties, binivet muna yan ng political party. Anong pwedeng lumabas sa'yo? So, tinitingnan nila ano yung winnability mo, ano yung pwedeng maka-apekto sa'yo,
Skeletons.
no? So lahat, sine-check muna yan. And then, yun, kung medyo tingin nila, medyo hindi talaga uubra na medyo sobrang bigat, then hindi ka papatakbuhin sa primaries or something like that. So that's the
Ako last na lang na question. Did you find something new about what the force said? Ba? Yes. Kasi may bago bang lumabas doon sa mga one-on-one interviews that you didn't already know? To me, that's the question. Was there anything new?
Wala akong maalala na bago sa mga sinabi nila. I think especially for an observer of Philippine politics, alam na parang nabasa na namin 'to. Alam na namin 'to. So I think there's nothing new.
Professor G. Yeah.
Sa akin, while I welcome the fact na parang magiging norm na to, no, in future elections, so talagang magtatanong, nakukulangan pa din ako, no. I honor the competence naman of Jessica So, pero gusto ko pa rin maging norm yung pag tinanong tatanggalin ko ang poverty, paano?
Yes.
Kasi kung tinanong natin
that's the job we have to do, no? I guess for media.
Yeah. Kung tinanong natin si Duterte noong una, sabi niya, anuhin ko ang droga in 3 months. Paano? Anong timeline mo? Magkano? How much? Anong pwersa ng gobyerno ang gagamitin mo? Yung ganoon, paano? Anong pilot, may estimates ka na ba? Yung ganoon di ba? Yun sana. Kaso, alam ko na for TV, medyo mahirap yun dahil syempre meron kang, naiintindihan ko rin naman yung
limitation namin.
TV, pero, kasi syempre yung airtime, pero hindi ko rin alam, pero suggestion ko lang yun. Kasi doon mo makikita talaga kung sino yung may detalye, kung sino yung may karanasan on the ground, kung sino yung binibrief lang, galing lang sa mga briefing. Kasi alam mo naman ang mga politiko, artista rin yan, di ba?
Noted.
Okay, well, professors, unfortunately, we're out of time for this gap, but inaasahan naman po namin kayo. This will be mahaba-habang usapan pa po ito. Asahan po namin kayo susunod.
Talaga.
Salamat po.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always my pleasure.
Thank you po. Ingat po.
Salamat po.
Thank you.
That was Professor Jean Encinas Franco and UST Professor Dennis Coronacion. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back.
Welcome back to the Chiefs on One News. We continue our discussion on politics. And now with us, our former Ateneo School of Government Dean Tony Lavinia and Stratbase ADR President, Professor Dindo Manhit. Professors, thank you again for joining us and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Kasama ko lang si Professor Dindo kanina sa wag po. Professors, well, yung Saturday po, the refusal of Bongbong Marcos to appear nung forum, presidential forum nung Saturday on the allegation of bias by the host raises several questions, among them, how important ba talaga are these public fora for the candidates and for the public? I mean, do you need to appear? O are we past that point na, hindi, mag-social media na lang tayo? Prof. Dindo first.
Very important role of a candidate is to really present oneself to public discussions, and shows like what Jessica so had or what you have in your network are very important, because we cannot rely on produced television political advertisements or canned or highly organized social media programs, no? That is a one-way discussion. We need that conversation, we need that discourse that media as an independent institution of Philippine society can provide. So it's very important. And it might not just be one, it should be continuing until towards the very end of the campaign proper.
Prof. Tony. Well, Prof. First of all, I think we all agree on that. But I wonder lang if the public also feels the same way, considering how a lot of people have shifted their apparent preference to social media. I don't know lang. What do you think, Professor Tony?
No, I think the public, based on what we saw, grabe yung ratings doon, and nanonood doon, grabe yung discussion after. I think the public appreciates that, no? I actually want to look at this also from the point of view of the candidate. It's actually very good for the candidate to be able to do this, especially early in the campaign, so they can actually learn and also calibrate, di ba? Campaigns make you grow. You should be a different person at the end of the campaign from what you were at the beginning, di ba? And you evolve. And I think this was more of a lost opportunity for Bongbong. Yes, they made a calculation siguro that they might lose votes if they put it there, but I think they did lose votes just by not appearing. I mean, because it was an opportunity for him to actually have to explain. I mean, and I actually don't understand why he did that, because I mean, we saw naman Jessica, how fair she was with everyone, very tough, yes, but also allowed everyone to defend themselves and to state their positions. And so I watched the One News, yung kala Will Job and Maricel yung kahapon, and from a purely interview point of view, Marcos can swing it. I mean, I think he would have benefited from participating in that presidential interviews with Jessica.
But do you think it's justifiable to not show up just because, they think that, because let's we will own up to this. Now, of course, everybody has a bias one way or the other, but that's so different from actually out and out campaigning, or even convincing other people to go this way or your way. You know what I mean? So, but parang I would say that. Maybe Jessica, we call her JS. Jessica may have been biased, sure, but everybody has a bias. But I have never known her to publicly condemn or support anyone. Did you actually think that was fair or is it fair for any candidate to say, ayoko dyan, ayaw sa akin yan eh? Diba? Dindo? Yeah.
It's not fair, especially when you choose other shows. Suddenly accept it, no? Then you're the one who's having a bias. You're choosing where you say your message because either you have good relationship with them or they will not ask the hard question, no? So I believe candidates, as they present themselves to be our next head of government, head of state, needs to rise up to that occasion. Maybe it's a lesson learned for candidate former Senator Marcos. But on the part of media, I think we should keep on demanding it from all candidates to be part of any political discourse, to be challenged, to define who they are, define what their issues are, not even just simply using motherhood statements, but really defining themselves. And that's what we need as we enter the campaign season, because we're just entering the campaign season. Much can still happen.
Dean Tony, I'm also wondering, beyond the political calculations and whatever price or risk Bongbong Marcos has to pay. I'm wondering about what does it say about what his campaign is assessing as vulnerabilities in his image. Yeah? When he decides na hindi. And then when he doubles down and he says, I don't want to talk about to biased media. I don't want to talk, and biased media is anybody who's anti-Marcos. And then he goes beyond that and says that ayoko nang pag-usapan yung past, yung tatay ko, pandrambong, and so on and so forth. But whether or not wise yung hindi ka mag-attend, is that nonetheless acknowledging, betraying an Achilles heel that the campaign recognizes? That corruption, your family's history, your family name, your father, the dictator, human rights, plunder, all of that is a legitimate Achilles heel?
Yes, I'm going to emphasize what Dindo just said. I mean, that campaign needs to learn that lesson now, early in this campaign. So far it worked for them. I talk to people that are journalists assigned to cover Marcos. That's really how they operate. They don't give him for interviews. They're very good apparently dealing with everyone. They're nice. They're generous, but they're very protective of their candidate. But I'm telling them that will backfire. That is good at the first stage, but at this stage, when again and again he will have to go out and media will invite him and journalists will invite him, he cannot say, you can only ask me this question and not these questions.
Oh yes, but if he digs in and sticks to that strategy, sige, mamili na lang tayo na ano. Then my next question, Dindo, is if he will avoid direct questions from media and public fora, with that message and with that vulnerability, can that be exploited by sniping? In other words, not with him. In other words, hindi siya mahuhuli sa sarili niyang bibig, but all the other candidates attacking him. Is that a tactic that can actually work?
It creates an opportunity for the other campaign to put pressure on him to address certain issues, no? But one thing that is unique in this election season is really telling your own stories and narrative in social media. So maybe while we are applauding a good interview of Jessica Soho, it would be good also to review what has been pushed to the 8.3 million followers of Senator Marcos. Baka iba yung narrative doon, and it might have worked also. So that's the uniqueness of our political environment now, that they can go straight to a specific segment of society and tell their story, or I could even say frame the discussion or the discourse. But I feel if media, as an institution, in different networks, different platforms, continue to push this towards candidates, no, then we will have a better result this coming election. We'll elect somebody that deserves to be elected, that somebody who ran away from addressing critical issues that needs to be answered. So you should not stop. Media should not stop. If you consider this a weakness, continue to ask him or other candidates.
Yes.
Do you think that the backlash from Bongbong Marcos's absence in the forum of GMA also put pressure on other candidates to show up in all the fora that they get invited to? I mean, kasi, my question is, what if Lenny does not show up in some other forum? Will she get the same backlash?
I think so.
Well, didn't that happen with DZRH? Of course, that was fake news that she did not want to show up. But
yes.
And you can see that Marcos is now making an effort to say yes to everyone. I mean, because of that particular, I think they know that it was a mistake. I'll have to be honest about that. I mean, but for me, for the other candidates, to answer Robbie's question also, it might not be good use of airtime by them, frankly, to attack Marcos. They don't even know who will benefit if they attack Marcos, whether it's them or someone else, right? They really need to push their own narratives. I mean, for me, if Marcos wins this, and that's not sure, in spite of, we don't know now what the state of the race is, right? Because that was 1 month ago or 6 weeks ago when we had the last surveys. But if Marcos does win this, it's not just because he was strong. It's also because the other candidates did not succeed in pushing their narratives.
Okay, speaking of which,
and for me, the Marcos, attacks on the Marcos can be a distraction for the other candidates.
Dean, I'll seize on that to ask both you and Dean do. Sige, pag-usapan natin ibang kandidato. So, who stood out in the interviews?
At this time, you really wouldn't know who stands out. It's one of the first, and it builds. That's why I really would like to see more of this, where they are in one together, or that opportunity to engage in that discourse. No, it's early. They will learn. They will be more substantive. If forced to be more substantive. No? At times, people will say, Senator Ping, VP Lenny has more substance, but maybe they're talking to you and me. Maybe the language naman of Anisco was talking to the audience of GMA7. So we don't know who did better, or even Manny Pacquiao. So sa akin, it's, as it builds on, we really need to have all these opportunities for candidates to show, to be known to the public, get an opportunity to be asked, and also for media to prepare oneself to ask deeper and more substantive follow-up questions. So we know that they're simply playing with us with their motherhood statements, to force them to really define. Kasi non-ideological or personality-driven. Define na lang nila what their issues are and where they stand on issues.
Well, what struck me most in the interviews, was they actually did not differentiate themselves from each other very much on substance, di ba? To be honest, I just thought, same old elitist political view, same old solutions to the same old problems, di ba? To be quite honest.
Okay. Then let me put
what struck me. I could actually vote for all four of them.
Yeah, then Dean Tony, then let me put a spin on that, on the same question. Who lost the biggest opportunity?
Marcos.
No, apart from Marcos. I mean, of those who had the opportunity to make the most of being in the interview, given, as you said, na parang sayang pare-pareho, nobody really stood out. But relatively speaking, who lost the greatest opportunity?
I wouldn't be able to say that now, to be honest also. I guess from the polling point of view, because he did very well, in my view, Lacson might have gained something. I don't know. We don't know, because I don't know even when the new polling surveys will be done, the field work will be done, right? But he did, because he's the lowest among the four, he was able to take advantage of that. I mean, but in terms of not taking advantage, I wouldn't be able to say now.
How much of this did you? Okay. How much of this exercise, this forum, actually break the personality-based voting syndrome of Filipinos? Nakatulong ba yun na, di ba, na ma-deface man lang yung, kung ano man yung public face nila all this time?
It's a first step. That's why very critical to have continuous. No, it's good that it's happening at this time. Not yet campaign season. We should have more. We should get them together. And as I've said, it's also the duty of media to prepare the harder questions or harder follow-up questions. Set it up that as they answer motherhood, let's define this and go to the next level. So because slowly, you get to understand them. Are they thinking in their feet? Is it something coming from their heart? Or suddenly they get lost? Memorized lang ba to? Is this a script that they were simply following? So
I ask kasi because I know that many politicians are glib, no? I mean, in fact, doon tayo nadadala sa mga mahusay magsalita. No?
That's
And
why that-
I think that's part of the personality. No?
Yeah. That's why it's put up
and so-
substance in terms of questions. You ask them to define it on issues. I'll give an example. Like when you speak of joint maritime, is it mas importante in territorial integrity and maritime rights? I mean, you go deeper because it's so easier to say joint maritime. And the funny thing, I'll surrender to Dean Tony. Meron ba tayong joint maritime? Parang alam ko meron tayong contracting out. So doon pala sa tanong mali na kagad.
Hindi yung tanong.
Di ba? Parang sumagot siya lahat, agree.
Joint development ang ibig sabihin noon actually. Diba?
Pero we use joint exploration. So that's why I'm saying, doon pa lang huli kagad na naintindihan ng 4 na kandidato natin yung sinagot nila. But they thought they did. No? So we need more of that deeper question because I know media can do that. No? And even if not, can work with other groups to ask those questions.
Din daw, sundutin ko lang yung pa rin yung tanong ko kanina no, on who could have made the most. I guess that's another way of phrasing it. And who did not necessarily. I'll be more pointed and I'll be more specific. Vice President Leni Robredo. And only because the big context for her was siya yung pumapangalawa sa mga surveys. And all the more given that Bongbong Marcos was not there. Now, she did not necessarily know that at the time of the interviews because those were obviously all scheduled and produced ahead of time. But from a campaign standpoint, how much pressure was there for the Vice President's campaign to make the most of that opportunity, especially given na wala si Bongbong Marcos doon?
That was a very big opportunity because you can define yourself and hopefully you define yourself beyond your core supporters. It was an opportunity to expand your base, to talk beyond your followers, to talk to a certain target voters that can swing to you. So they should have seen that as an opportunity to talk to that group. Even the messaging in the narrative.
Oh, and so I guess
So
that's
did
my
they
question.
achieve that?
Did she?
Did they? That's a
did she achieve
question.
it?
Did they?
Only science can say that. So I can answer you 2 weeks from now. If we see a bump, because of the debate, the GMA 7, just to answer in passing lang in what Dean Tony said, if it's running, it's about to run. So this takes because na delay because of Omicron. So hopefully this gets captured. All this issue of the debate, so only science ang sagot ko dyan. That means, let's see. It's not me to tell people if it was effective. It's how did it reflect? We'll see in the next round of surveys.
Professor,
Tanong naman ako.
I try to be conscious.
Sige, go ahead, Ed.
I try to be conscious of the possibility that yung adverse impact or adverse reaction doon sa Bongbong Marcos refusal to participate could be or could possibly be within our circles lang. I mean, baka tayo lang may adverse impact, adverse reaction.
Sa mga fans niya, wala.
Kasi you did mention his huge number of followers, and they have their own narrative, they have their own spin, and I think they're still spinning right now. They've justified it to themselves, and you can also see that on social media. So my question is that a reasonable possibility to consider na baka mamaya the adverse impact is only being felt by us or by a small group?
But when I saw 3 million views, initial views of the debate, that for me is a good sign. And also the trending Bongbong Duwag. I mean, those things, not necessarily choosing one candidate over the other. So there might be that segment in Philippine electorate that doesn't like that kind of approach to the election, to avoid media, especially respected media organizations, pero available for some. Diba? I mean, that's why I think if you will sustain raising the campaign to this level, I think that it might even have a dent on its own followers. Our numbers as of December was 38% of Filipinos are still open to shifting. That's not big, but 38 is a game changer. But aside from that also, a big issue can bring that possibility of change higher even. That's why I always say that when media pushes a certain issue tuloy-tuloy, it becomes a tipping point in a certain political environment. So we'll see. So we need to see this as an opportunity, not only for campaigns to wake up and shift, but also for media and other stakeholders of Philippine society to demand this from the candidates, because these are important opportunities to know them and for them to answer and address certain issues. that we
I'll
want
take another
to
angle
raise.
to I'll take another angle to what Dindo is saying, Dean Tony. Yung emphasizing media. And let's talk about media as another political player here. You look at these fora, these interviews, and we're all eager not just to see how the candidates fared. We're also, frankly, quite eager to see, did media, in one way or another, was it actually effectual at any level? What is at stake here as well for media if it turns out that we are a game changer or we're not? Given all of this talk about how nagbago na ang kampanya ngayon and talk about the relevance or the irrelevance of mainstream media.
We'll see. No? I mean, again, we'll see what happens in the surveys and then what happens in the election day itself. But I think that what we're seeing so far is that it's going to be very risky for a candidate to ignore traditional media and the forums that traditional media, the forums that the COMELEC will organize, which will involve traditional media. We know that. I mean, I'm sure they're probably talking now to the major TV networks to organize that. So I think that that role will still be there. How diminished it will be because the candidates can go directly to the people, not just to advertising, but to social media is something still that we need to be able to see. You know? But I think I see that even in the Marcos campaign, they had to recalibrate because of that. They were just doing what they were already doing, which is not make their candidate available to whenever they felt it was convenient. But I think I would suspect Marcos will attend every single forum now after that. And that's really your vindication for traditional media that you have to be able to play that role. And you will know, and I'll be remiss if I don't mention this also, I chair a consortium of organizations, many of which are legal groups that are trying to deal with disinformation in social media platforms. And we will be taking major steps in the next couple of weeks to make sure that the platforms are more transparent. I mean, in terms of how the narratives are relayed, are communicated to various people. So hopefully that will also have an effect on making social media, better for the country, not necessarily better for the candidates.
Okay, and last night, of course, I'm sure you watched at least a part of 1PH's Totoo Lang's interview of BBM. Ano naman ang assessment nyo sa performance niya doon? At least that one, he granted that very long interview. Was he able to somehow redeem himself from his much talked about absence from the forum of GMA?
I watched the whole thing. That was given as an assignment from you. The person who asked us sent us the link, and anyway, I like to watch that show also, and I guess there as well. So I actually watched the whole thing, and on the defense of why he was not there, really, it was a wash. Na talagang you could see there was no basis. He was the one that was biased and not fair to judge. So that unfortunately was very, very clear, and I think his reason that he doesn't want to talk about the past, that's not going to happen. I mean, media people will choose the questions that they want to ask, and people also want to ask that question. Two interesting things for me. Much of the policies are very general in nature. It really didn't come to specifics to do that, and I think the questions could have been tougher in terms of asking him very specific things. The way Jessica asked very specific questions to the candidates, I mean, that surprised everyone. I was surprised that VP Lenny would say she was against divorce. I mean, there was some nuancing for that, but I was surprised about that, for example, about same-sex marriage and things like that with I think ISCO or anyway, there are very direct questions there, but they didn't ask that, and when he was asked questions, he was very general about that. But I actually like his answer about his main framing of his campaign, which is a national unity government.
Unity, yes.
Which is that he will get the best, and it will try to solve problems, and he will not go against. I mean that's consistent also, but he articulated it quite well. I mean, I think they could be more specific as well. Like, will you order the release of Senator De Lima? Will you go back to the negotiations with the community? I mean, very specific things can be asked also about that.
Okay.
Dindo?
We're almost out of time. Professor Dindo, any other specific questions?
Just to add to Dean Tony, it's he was answering it quite long. So when somebody answers quite long, grasping for specific still. But again, as such, that's early on in the campaign. Hopefully, they can really be more specific, or maybe the challenge to media is to ask them. But it's good that he pointed out he's for unity, diba? So let's put substance to that. What does it mean? Because it's built around that idea also. So much can be expected, but we need media and the help of other sectors to really pin down candidates to define who they really are based on specific issues, critical issues that need to be addressed in a post-COVID recovery of our country after May 2022. We need to ask those questions, and they need to answer it, all candidates.
Okay. Professor Tony Laviña and Dindo Manhit, maraming salamat po. Sa ulitin, mahaba-haba pa to, ha?
Ingat, Profs.
Thank you.
Sige. Maraming salamat po. And that's all for this edition of The Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.